When dawn came, it was a welcome relief for Mel. She had not slept all night, keeping the fire going and watching the riverbank animals nervously. They had not approached, apparently content to observe, and silently slipped away one at a time, back towards the river as the daylight grew. But the dawn only provided light. The temperature had dropped overnight and it looked like it might stay that way. And Mel thought human Tom might be sick. His little face nose was more red than pink, and he had started shaking. Probably bacteria in the river water they had been drinking. There was no way to avoid taking that risk, and without modern medicines, there was nothing she could do to ease his suffering. Mel would look for food today. There was little chance of travelling with her companion unwell. Her first stop was the riverbank itself, to see if the animals had left any tracks to their dens. They had, but unfortunately she couldn't make any sense of them. Mel had never hunted before. Looking at her strapped-up arm, she supposed she wouldn't be trying her hand at it any time soon. Looking for berries and nuts would have to do. With a tired sigh, she started to scour the undergrowth nearby. Tom watched Mel disappear into the forest with a shiver. It was much colder today, and he hadn't been able to stop shivering since he woke. The little fire didn't help much. Mel had said she was looking for food for them both, but she looked worse than ever. Her arm must be wearing on her pain threshold. It would be up to him again to make sure they didn't have empty bellies. At least they would have a decent chance of finding something now they both had a full night's rest. As he went to the river for a morning drink, he noticed animal tracks in the mud. From what he could tell, they were four-legged, had claws on each foot, and dragged their bellies and tails. What luck! He would be able to hunt. Tom had been thinking of snares, but this would be much easier if the local fauna didn't even bother to try and hide. Humming and shivering in equal amounts, Tom drank, and then began looking for a branch that might double as a club. Beltar watched the troll push his way ungracefully through the forest from his concealed position a small distance away. It suddenly occurred to him that it was looking for food. Idiot troll. There would be no edible fruits until late spring, only hunt meats. At least the trolls were as stupid as he heard about. Maybe he could outsmart it to get the precious metal back. With this realization, Beltar stealthily slipped away, heading to his last known camp. Maybe the metal would be there waiting to be claimed by its rightful owner. A small open fire in a shoddily made shelter greeted him. The troll hadn't even made a bed of leaves. What a dumb animal. But no metals. Most interestingly, the cracks in his trail showed they had surrounded the camp on three sides overnight, but not approached. Did they fear the troll? Impossible. Craxus ate everything and they had it outnumbered at least 20 to 1. Maybe they were as confused by his appearance as Beltar was. Suddenly, there was no more time to think as the sound of footsteps in snow intruded into his thoughts. He dived for cover behind the nearest tree just as another troll emerged. So, one hadn't eaten the other after all. The unwelcome surprise had nearly cost Beltar dearly. He made all the traditional curses under his breath, partly because of his own mistake, partly because, metal or not, if this was a breeding pair, then he would have to rally all the nearby tribes to drive them off. He cautiously glanced around the edge of the tree's trunk. This one was smaller, maybe only twice his height, and covered in similar strange pelts like the other one. It was pink, like the insides of a fresh kill, instead of the other's more natural brown, and carried a wicked-looking wooden club. And it had the god-rock metal hanging from one hip. Thief! It must have picked it up because it was shiny. He would follow this one, see if it put the metals down or got distracted long enough for him to snatch them back, and run. Looking at the club it hefted effortlessly, Beltar really hoped for the first option. Tom gave his crude weapon a few practice swings experimentally. About the length of his arm and now fire-hardened in the coals, it would do. The first animal tracks he followed led straight to a burrow. Too easy. Looking down the dark hole, Tom realized he should have tried to make a spear instead. Oh well, nothing for it now. Thrusting the blunt club down the burrow, elected a snarl, followed by the first animal he had seen on the planet. It was a crocodile. Sort of, anyway, if they were grey and half his size. He backed up, wary of his teeth. Angry at being disturbed, it gave chase. Tom swung his club two-handed, landing a blow square on his head. He had been ready to lift his club again, but it was clear the animal was dead. His first blow had absolutely detonated his skull, sending gore in all directions. Tom hadn't expected that. Just as he was collecting himself from the shock, more emerged from the burrow. Realizing that he didn't want to get caught in an uneven fight, Tom grabbed the dead animal's tail and ran. His elation with success died when he realized the only bath he would get was in the icy waters of the river. Just the thought of it made him shiver anew. Come to think of it, butchering the kill with only an inch-long blade wasn't going to be fun either. It would almost certainly take up the rest of the day. Beltar was in awe of the troll's bravery and strength. He had watched from up a nearby tree as the dull-witted troll stupidly poked at a Krax's nest, expecting it to get swarmed and devoured, leaving him to claim the precious metals. Instead, it had effortlessly killed one, and retreated to its camp with his prize, neatly avoiding the others with a sun turn of speed. No wonder the Kraxes hadn't attacked them in the night. They must have sensed the troll's hunger. If this is what the smaller of the pair could achieve, then they were both very dangerous indeed. Unfortunately, it hadn't dropped the metals, and Beltar wasn't going to try his luck after that display of prowess. He would have to continue to watch and hope. Exhausted beyond words, Mel wondered how she would tell the human that there wasn't enough food. She clutched her pitiful harvest to her chest in one hand, 3 shriveled berries that hopefully weren't poisonous, and 1 nut that looked to be more wood than food. Tom would eat because he was sick, and she would go hungry. They would hopefully find rescue soon. Mel emerged into the campsite only to freeze at the most unexpected sight. Human Tom was sitting in front of a roaring fire with one of the night animals on a stick, roasting over the open flames. As her tired mind was trying to process this, the wind changed direction and slapped her in the face with the beautiful scents of wood smoke and sizzling fat. It smelt divine.